I want you to visualize something for a moment. Imagine you are standing on the shore of a huge, foaming ocean. The waves pound the beach, unending, strong, relentless. Now glance down at your feet. Notice how the water flows in, encircles your feet, and then recedes, carrying with it tiny bits of sand from under your feet. Do this for long enough, and even the earth beneath your feet will shift. This is the first law of nature I was taught as a child, watching Hong Kong Harbor's waters. Nothing stays the same. Everything moves, adapt or die. You're here now because something in you is seeing this reality. You know the world is evolving at an ever-increasing speed, that yesterday's way of thinking, doing, existing is being rendered irrelevant overnight. What was useful yesterday is nothing the next day. The roots people have treaded are fading beneath your feet. You know, don't you? That frantic voice telling you to change or be obsolete. That loss etched itself into my bones, engraved itself into my mind, because it taught me what I'm about to teach you today. Flexibility breaks, but adaptability stretches. The strongest tree in the forest isn't the one with the thickest trunk. It's the one that will bow to the most violent gusts. I can still see the burn of that lesson on my skin. I was 22, full of pride regarding my fighting system, convinced I had discovered the ultimate way. One night, after hours of practice, I encountered an opponent who didn't respect my techniques, my lineage, my surety. In a matter of moments, he had deconstructed everything I was convinced I knew. It wasn't my body that was hit hardest that night, it was my ego. But adaptation is not merely about survival, it's about flourishing. It's about being like water, my friend. Water doesn't fight the rock in its way, it goes around it. Water doesn't push against the vessel it's put into, it takes its shape. Water doesn't battle gravity, it cooperates with it. And yet, after a sufficient amount of time, water erodes canyons through mountains. Water carves continents. Water is soft, sighable, but nothing on earth is more forceful. This isn't philosophy. This is the pragmatism of truth I found in combat, in cinema, in constantly recreating myself within a world not built for the likes of me. The world will advise you to stay in your lane, to accept that there are boundaries, to be realistic. Is realistic, though, in holding on to old methods when everything else is changing around you. I recall the murmurs when I first started teaching Chinese to non-Chinese students in America. This is not our tradition, they complained. You're compromising your heritage, they cautioned. The martial arts world wanted me to keep their treasured systems just as they had been for centuries. But preservation without development is merely gradual demise. Those who demanded adherence to tradition have only memories in history books, while those who evolved continue to forge the future. Consider your own life. Where are you fighting against change that is needed? Where have you become hard, stiff, stuck in habits that don't work for you anymore? Your soul-sucking job that pays your mortgage, your relationship that provides comfort but withers your growth. Your daily routines that keep you stuck in the same rut, year after year, and wonder why nothing is different. Change or be changed. This is no philosophy. This is the prime law of existence. The dinosaurs did not elect extinction. They just did not evolve when the world changed around them. And now, they live only as fossils in museums, cautionary memories fossilized in stone. First principle, water never struggles against obstacles, it goes around them. Most people waste their energy fighting head-on against resistance. Their boss tells them no, so they push harder. Their body hurts, so they muscle through it. Their mind is afraid, so they attempt to overcome it head-on. This is stupidity. This is the way to burnout. I recall shooting Enter the Dragon, working 18-hour days in blistering heat. The other performers approached each scene with brute strength, exhausting every last bit of energy on the initial takes, exhausted by lunchtime. But I did not attack each challenge in the same way. When exhaustion was my hindrance, I did not struggle against it. I adapted my methods to take less out of me. When the heat was oppressive, I did not struggle against it. I used it in my movements, utilizing the sweat, the discomfort as a part of my expression. When obstacles show up in your way, and they will show up every day, ask yourself, am I struggling against this obstacle, or am I creating the path of least resistance around it? The obstacle doesn't change because of your struggle. but you deplete yourself through the effort. Water doesn't wear itself out by rushing up to the boulder. It simply finds the way of least resistance and keeps moving. Second principle, water accommodates any vessel without losing its nature. Pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Pour it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. But water is still water, its inherent nature unaltered. When I first came to America, I was presented with a decision: be staunchly Chinese and suffer, or accommodate to the new world without sacrificing who I was. Immigrants often fail by either refusing to accommodate in any way or sacrificing their full identity for the sake of blending in. Both methods result in suffering. I took a different route. I mastered English, learned Western philosophy, dressed in American attire, but never lost my roots, my outlook, the wisdom of my people. I didn't merely survive in America. I reshaped American culture itself exactly because I adapted without losing my identity. Examine your own life. How many times a week do you end up in new situations, surrounded by new individuals, with new expectations? Do you stick obstinately to yourself, no matter what situation, or do you become a chameleon, discarding your core values every time you move into a new setting? Neither is helpful to you. The individual who cannot adapt is obsolete. The individual who lacks a solid center is unseen. But the individual who can stay true to their core and change their expression to fit any given situation, that individual becomes untouchable. They are able to walk into any room, any business, any problem, and not just get by, succeed. Third principle, water does not attempt to force its destination. It yields to the process while always moving ahead. This may be the most difficult principle to accept in a culture that is enamored with 5-year plans and meticulously planned careers. We crave assurances. We crave certainty. We crave to know precisely where we're headed before we even set out. When I departed Hong Kong for America, I had no assurance of success. When I quit a successful television series to work on my dream of martial arts movies, all thought me to be ruining my career. When I developed Jeet Kune Do, rejecting traditional methods, the masters told me I would not succeed. If I had waited for assurance before acting, I would have stood still and watched life move by. Water doesn't know whether it will make it to the ocean when it starts as rain on a mountain. It just takes the natural route down, changing direction as needed, always in motion. Sometimes it's stuck in a pool for years, sometimes it's rushing through rapids, sometimes it's tumbling over cliffs, but eventually it makes it to the ocean, not by planning, but by natural persistence and flexibility. Your life will unfold in ways you can't possibly anticipate. The career you mapped out will vanish overnight. The relationship you banked on will change beyond recognition. Skills you honed will become useless. Holding on to your planned path will only lead to suffering. Rather be like water. Have direction, but yield to the journey. Flow ever forward, but adjust your path as the terrain shifts. Have faith not in your power to command results, in your power to respond with artistry to whatever comes. This is how water, the gentlest substance in nature, cuts canyons through hard stone. Not by force, but by continuous flexibility. These 3 maxims, circling around obstacles, changing without losing identity, letting go of the journey while pressing onward, these are not abstract concepts. They are pragmatics for getting through in an ever-changing world. They are the distinction between those who shatter under pressure and those who flex, yield, and end up winning. I'd like to share with you 4 practices that I created to transform myself from a stiff martial artist to someone who could respond to anything without losing my center. These aren't academic exercises. These are the same methods I employed to upend the martial arts, crash into Hollywood in the face of infuriating racism, and build a legacy that endures decades after my physical body has passed on. The first practice, spot and dump your fixed positions. Fixed positions on the battlefield equate to death. A warrior unable to adapt his position is lost. Same with life. Your fixed positions are your unassailable beliefs, habits, and identities that you won't change or question, despite evidence or conditions. Daily, for a week, ask yourself, what am I utterly sure of that might actually be wrong? What do I persist in refusing to question even when reality indicates something different? Maybe it's your certainty regarding a career path. Maybe it's your style regarding relationships. Maybe it's ideas about your own limitations. I recall being absolutely certain that martial arts had to be practiced in established traditional forms. This absoluteness was a jail until I compelled myself to doubt it. The instant I opened myself to the idea that I could be mistaken, my art changed entirely. Write down 3 certainties each morning, then deliberately seek evidence that contradicts them. Don't defend against this evidence. Absorb it, consider it, let it challenge you. This isn't about abandoning your values. It's about ensuring your positions remain fluid, responsive to reality, rather than fixed in comfortable illusion. The second practice, the daily adaptation drill. 1 day a week for a month, take the time intentionally to put yourself into a place of needing to adapt. It could be leaving for work from a different direction. It could be talking with someone whose opinion differs from yours, not to argue, but to actually listen to his point of view. It could be attempting at a skill that you feel sure you have no talent for. As I was creating Jeet Kune Do, I would train consciously with masters from entirely disparate systems of combat. Boxing, fencing, wrestling, not to beat them, but to take what was helpful from their techniques. Every time I had to change, to challenge my preconceptions, to grow. The secret to this exercise is to approach each scenario not with the intention of winning, but with the intention of adjusting. Victory may occur, but that's not why you do it. Cultivating your adaptability muscle, that's the win. As water poured over and over into various vessels, you learn to change your form without losing your essence. The third practice, emptying your cup each day. There's a famous story about a scholar who visits a Zen master to learn from him. As they sit down for tea, the scholar begins explaining everything he already knows. The master begins pouring tea into the scholar's cup, but doesn't stop when it's full. Tea overflows everywhere. "What are you doing?" the scholar exclaims. The master responds, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and assumptions. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Each night before bed, practice emptying your cup. Sit quietly for 10 minutes and deliberately let go of everything you believe you know. Your professional skills, let them go. Your sense of being smart, strong, capable, release it. Your assumptions about tomorrow, melt them away. I did this every night, particularly after I achieved success. The more individuals who referred to me as a master, the more consciously I got back into a student's head. The more equations I learned that worked, the more easily I let them go to learn something better. Empty your cup not once, but every day. The fourth practice, water meditation. This is the practice that brought my concept of adaptability from head to body. Sit or lie down in a place where you will not be disturbed. Close your eyes and visualize yourself as water, not symbolically, literally. Feel your hard edges melting away. Feel yourself becoming fluid, adaptive, responsive. Now think about different situations you're dealing with right now. A bad argument with your significant other, a frustrating issue at work, a limitation about yourself that you want to get beyond. Don't think of yourself as a person going around this challenge. Feel yourself as water going around these challenges. How would water go around this roadblock? How would water fill in this area? How would water discover the way ahead? Practice this for just 5 minutes daily, and you'll begin to notice yourself responding differently to life's challenges. The rigid reactions that once seemed automatic will begin to dissolve. The creative adaptations that once required effort will begin to flow naturally. These 4 practices, identifying fixed positions, the daily adaptation drill, emptying your cup, and water meditation, these are not philosophical ideas to contemplate. They are hands-on techniques to practice on a daily basis. They are the distinction between intellectual knowledge and embodied wisdom. I've crafted these habits from a decade or so of testing, screwing up, and working at refining. They helped make me out of an extremely competent but circumscribed fighter, and into a man whose reach expanded past styles to beyond culture itself. They'll make you one too, not a duplicate, but the most fluid, engaging iteration of you that's possible. But this is what you have to realize. Adaptation is not weakness. Adaptation is not about giving away your power or selling out on your values. The worst possible misreading of "be like water" is that it teaches you to be passive, amorphous, without purpose or energy. Water accommodates to its surroundings, yes, but water also molds its surroundings. Water moves around barriers. But with enough time, water erodes mountains. Water congeals to the shape of its vessel, but water also dissolves, eats away, and changes whatever vessel contains it. Real adaptability isn't a matter of continually responding to outside forces. It's a matter of having such deep internal flexibility that you're able to respond as needed to any situation, sometimes with yielding subtlety, sometimes with irresistible power, sometimes by simply reversing the dynamic altogether. I illustrated this with a contentious demonstration in Long Beach. A test subject insisted that I couldn't possibly move him if he braced all his muscles and held fast. Instead of force versus force, I asked him a question that made him think and shifted his internal state instantly, rendering him movable. I accommodated not by getting weaker, but by sensing a different kind of strength. The strength of psychological shifting over physical pushing. This is important to recognize. Adaptability takes strength. It takes guts. The fragile cannot adapt, only crack or hide. It takes massive inner strength to be adaptable in a world that applauds lockjawed surety. It takes immense self-knowledge to be able to admit when your strategies aren't functioning and need modification. It takes real confidence to let go of strategies that worked yesterday, but are constraining you today. Look at any industry being disrupted right now. The leaders who fail aren't those lacking intelligence or resources, they're those lacking adaptability. Look at any relationship struggling to survive. The breakdown rarely comes from insufficient love. It comes from inflexible expectations, rigid roles, inability to evolve together. I was tested in this way again and again during my career, when Hollywood tried to give me stereotypical roles that would have provided consistent work, but at the cost of my self-respect. I evolved not by accepting constraints, but by forging a whole new track. When orthodox martial arts were too confining, I did not give up discipline. I transformed it into building something new. When my body came to certain boundaries, I did not refuse them. I circumvented them, learning new methods that utilize my own strengths to the fullest. Now I challenge you. Where in your life have you been reacting with inflexibility when flexibility would be more useful to you? Where have you been holding on to approaches, attitudes, or identities which at one time served you well, now adaptation isn't about surrendering your goals, it's about being flexible about the path to reach them. Adaptation isn't about abandoning your values, it's about finding new expressions for them as circumstances change. Adaptation isn't about erasing your identity, it's about allowing that identity to evolve rather than calcify. Remember, adapt or perish is not mere dramatic language. It is the universal law of nature. No philosophy, no technology, no human will can supersede all species that have vanished from the earth, all civilizations that live only in ruins, all companies that used to rule but now are forgotten. They all have the same epitaph. They failed to adapt, but you are different. You are here now. Reading these words because something in you identifies this truth. Something in you knows that the way ahead isn't about getting harder, more certain, more rigid in your ways. Something in you knows that real strength lies in responsive power, not rigid force. I learned this reality on the battlefield, in my artwork, in fighting to create authentically within a world that always seemed to put up walls before me. You will find it through your own obstacles, your own work of art, your own journey. The details are different, but the process is the same. Water adjusts and prevails. Water gives way and wins. So I want to challenge you now, for the next 30 days, be a student of flexibility. Catch yourself where you're resisting change that's already in progress. See where you're hardening when flexibility would be more beneficial. Notice where you're struggling against reality rather than with the flow of it. Begin with small changes. Take an alternate route home. Alter a conditioned response. Challenge one assumption each day. Then slowly ratchet up the challenge. Have the conversation you've been dreading. Think about the career transition that draws you in and scares you. Let go of the identity that once shielded you, but now limits you. As you practice, keep in mind that this isn't about random change for change's sake. Water doesn't change direction at random. It adjusts to the landscape while always moving toward its destination. Keep your core direction, your values, your purpose, your essence, while letting your expression evolve to fit shifting landscapes. I promised you something great when we first got together. I promised to teach you the key that made me more than a mere martial artist, something that history recalls. That key isn't a method or a belief or an attitude, although it includes all three. The martial artist who has mastered 1,000 fixed techniques will always be beaten by changing circumstances, but the martial artist who has mastered adaptability can effectively counter any attack, even one they've never encountered before. The same is true for every field of life. Business executives who excel at adaptability flourish through changes in the market that demolish their inflexible competitors. Artists who excel at adaptability keep making valuable contributions as tastes and technologies change. Relationships that excel at adaptability become stronger through life transformations that break brittle bonds. When I encountered racism in Hollywood, I could have hardened and become bitter, engaging an unshifting system head-on. Instead, I found ways to adapt, not by accepting boundaries, but by opening new doors where none had previously existed. When I hit physical barriers, I did not deny them or try to break myself trying to push past them head-on. I revised my whole modus operandi to utilize other qualities to their fullest. This is your choice. Are you the rock or the water? The rock seems solid, immovable, awe-inspiring in its hardness, but with time enough, the water prevails. The rock might stay the same or shatter. The water flows, changes, and finally remakes the world. The world you're living in today is evolving at a quicker pace than ever before in human history. Technologies shift overnight, industries vanish within months, skills lose relevance within years, social formations change under our feet. Those holding on to rigid certainty aren't showing strength, they're showing fear. Real strength here on Earth isn't based on positions or convictions that never change. Real strength comes from cultivating such deep inner equilibrium that you can stay rooted while always shifting your outer form. It comes from being like water, staying yourself while shifting your shape to fit whatever vessel life puts you into. This is what I learned through decades of martial arts, through breaking with the past, through reinventing myself repeatedly in a world that attempted to confine me by its limitations rather than my potential. This is what inspired me to develop Jeet Kune Do, not as some other fixed style, but as an articulation of adaptability itself, a martial art founded not upon formal forms, but upon flow responsive to what is. And this is what I give you today. Not a method to emulate, but an invitation to create your own expression of flexibility. Not methods to memorize, ideals to incarnate. Not solutions to hold on to, but questions that will keep unfolding in the course of your life. The stiff tree that will not bend ultimately snaps in the storm, but the bamboo that bends without losing its root, that still stands when the winds blow. The question is not if storms will arrive. The question is what you will be in return. It's your choice. But keep in mind what nature has shown over billions of years, what evolution has shown with millions of species, what history has shown through the rise and fall of civilizations.